Swanee, as my granny'd say, I don't know of anything any prettier than North Georgia in the fall. And that's just a little taste of what's about to happen to North Georgia in the fall. I wasn't here yesterday because I couldn't breathe and I wasn't doing too great, and so I missed a birthday or two. But I want to do a very, very special birthday today for somebody that you loved. We giggled, we had fun, we had some crazy times together. Jen is in heaven and she's running the show, and Jesus is saying, okay, Jen, I got it, I can do it, Jen, I can do it. Happy 80th heavenly birthday to Jen. And when I think about, it's been a while. It's like, it was like yesterday she was here and then the next day she was gone. It's crazy how we look, but we're looking back today to the day of 9/11. When you think about 9/11, where were you when the world stopped turning? Where were you and what were you doing? What was the first thought you had? Did you want to gather your children? Did you want to check on your mom and dad? What was the first thought? Jen has told me over and over and over about where they were, what happened, the smells that they smelled, the feeling that they felt. I cannot imagine being as close as they were to different things going on. And today, as I look back, all I could think about, I was thinking about it like 1 o'clock this morning. I thought, man, it is so weird that it's been that long since my husband picked up the phone and called me. But he picked up the phone and he called and he said, where are you? And I said, just walked in and sat down at my desk. And he said, do you have the TV on? I said, no. He said, turn the TV on. And I thought, why do you want me to watch TV? Okay, so I flip it on. And the second plane was hitting the towers. It was a moment we will never forget. It is a moment we should never forget. We should never, never, never allow what happened to us then. And a lot of people fuss because there are a lot of safety things in place now because of flying to keep it safer. We pray every single day that when you get on a plane, you are going to make it to your destination. We pray every single day that there are not going to be terrorists on those planes, because when you think about it, this was a very well-planned strategic disaster in America, and it was truly to attack America from our core being the cities like New York, where it is the hub of everything. Well, New York is getting itself in trouble by going crazy. They got a candidate that's not only a socialist, they call him a communist. I don't know why anybody's thinking about voting for this gentleman, this person, but it blows my mind. So there's another reason to flee to the outskirts of small cities. That's the reason all the small cities that we serve are growing so fast, because people in the city aren't thinking clearly. They're not thinking clearly. We still have to protect America. We have a lot of things in place to protect America, but it's obvious that we don't have enough in place. And I know you've seen the news. I know you've seen the beautiful young lady who was killed on a bus in North Carolina. Think about that, y'all. We're in North Georgia. Do you know how close North Carolina is to us? And this young lady had fled a war-torn country. They were living in a bomb shelter over there. They legally came to the U.S. She was working at a pizza place. And this brought back so many memories to me, because I rode the MARTA bus when I was 14 years old from Morningside over to Buckhead, where I worked at Pizza King. And every night I would get on the bus late, and I had on my little uniform, and I smelled like anchovies and garlic and pizza. And I would sit on the bus, and then I would wait until my time to get off the bus. And often at night, I would be nervous as I was stepping off the bus, because I had about 4 doors to walk from the bus stop to where we lived. And I remember that feeling of looking over your shoulder and thinking, is somebody going to get me? Is somebody going to attack me? The young woman who was murdered in North Carolina had just worked a whole day and was just sitting there, taking a rest, relaxing as she goes home. The guy sitting behind her, I can't even call him a person. had been arrested 14 times. 14 times. He had been arrested, gone before a judge, and released with a no-cash bond. Now, I don't know who dreamed that stuff up, but I don't think it's a very smart thing. And today, a family is going to lay their daughter to rest, and I think this really touched my heart. They had said they would give them funding to help send her back to her origin of country. She didn't want to go there. She loved America. She loved this country. So they're going to lay her to rest in our country. She loved it, and she was so happy to be here and so happy to be safe in our country. She wasn't safe in our country. That is so scary. So today, a lot of the police departments, a lot of the sheriff's departments are saying we're going to set up classes to teach you to carry a weapon. It is our right to carry a weapon. If anybody had been on that bus and carried a weapon, and now we're gonna show you some pictures, and we're gonna do that in just a second. But when we think about that bus could have been safe if somebody had been sitting there with a gun and taken that man out. Well, it'd be like in New York when Daniel Penny took the guy out, then he ended up in court. So people are afraid to protect themselves. We should not be afraid to protect ourselves in this country. And these are pictures that I have to share because these were done actually at Dot's Restaurant, which is where our office was for years. And this is the movie. I want you to watch this movie. I want you to watch how long and how many years ago we have had trouble on the rise because of drugs. Drugs. Now that's at Dot's, and that was our building. And it is the coolest thing ever because this movie, if you have not seen it, it's crazy to me, but my crew has not seen it. And I told them, I said, okay, do it, watch it, American Made. It was actually, the movie was called Mina at first, and because of a political arena and some things going on, they changed the name and held it for a couple of years. Now that, I want y'all to tell me where is that, because that is where I was the day the world stood still, and I had just walked into my office. That is actually on the corner of something and something in Jasper. And that's where our office was after we moved out of it. And that's not what's there today, but that's where I was the day the world stopped turning. I just parked, just got in there. Now, I want to remind y'all, yesterday, our buddy Dave Garner, who is now working with the Pulse, was at the Dairy Queen in Jasper, and they gave a percentage of all the money they took in yesterday to the Boys and Girls Club. As we hit the end of the year and you're looking for things to do with your money to not pay taxes, please make a donation to the Boys and Girls Club. We have one here in Ellijay, we have them in Jasper, we have them everywhere. It is amazing how many kids don't have any after school programs and don't have anything to do because their parents are working, and what a difference the Boys and Girls Clubs make. So make a donation. And the Dairy Queen in Jasper, thank you for doing that. Now this is my twin brothers, and love them dearly, wish I had more time to spend with them. This is the last trip that we made with our sister to the Cracker Barrel. You see the Cracker Barrel? That's the way it was supposed to look. But do you see the young man waiting on us? He was still forced to wear a mask because of COVID. We all know that the mask didn't help. It didn't help at all. All it did was keep germs in, and so many people got so much sicker. But that is one of the sweetest memories because that was 4 of us together just before my sister was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And what a sweet time. And then now they don't even have the items on the menu that my brothers ordered because they loved the ribeye steak at Cracker Barrel. They quit serving it. Now, who is that? Who is that? That is Tom Cruise as he sat in Ball Ground, Georgia. So if you're watching movies and you're looking for something that you say, hey, I want to find a really cool movie, this has a lot of violence in it. It has a lot of things in it that you do not want your children to see. But it is Georgia made, and I think we should support those Georgia made movies. Now look at that. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need tomorrow. When I think about, as a mom who buried her daughter, these people who are facing burying their daughter today, they will find the strength from other people gathering to help them, from other people supporting them. So as Americans, please pray for the family of the young lady, 23 years old, just getting off from work, doing her job, not harming anybody, not doing anything to anybody, and there she is. She has gone to be with Jesus because a violent, vicious, angry man stood up behind her and took a knife to her. I don't understand it. I don't know how they could put him before a judge 14 times and not get him the help he needed. If he was mentally unstable, he shouldn't have been on the streets. And now this family is paying the price. So please say a prayer for this family and say a prayer for America. Say a prayer for America. Tomorrow is the day, 9/11. We hope that that never happens on our soil again. But again, we have to protect ourselves. And check with your local sheriff's department. Now see that? There's a new opening that says where rivers, mountains, and good friends meet. That is the scene in Murphy, North Carolina, where I chose to, that was my idea. The church is where good friends meet, and the river, there it is, where rivers, mountains, and good friends meet. Where else could you meet? The church. We got back in church after 9/11. There were people who hadn't been to church in years who went back to church. We needed each other. We needed the Lord. We needed to stand together and pray together. We needed to bring America back to a place of goodness and kindness. We've gotten off track a little bit now, and we need to bring us back again. So I love that prayer is being introduced back in school. That is amazing to me. It should never have been taken out of school. So, and this was, you know, this was just after 9/11. It wasn't long after that. And I look back at how long ago that's been. It seems like yesterday, but it's not been just yesterday. Look back at all that has happened in this world since the day 9/11 changed our world. And today we're going to share something with you. Paul Nelson was on scene, ground zero, and talked about it with us. Now there's Sandy. I keep telling her I'm going to Montana to visit. I haven't made it yet. I haven't made it. I get a daycation here and there, but I just don't take time off. But what precious, precious dear friends, what precious, precious dear people we can connect with. Now that is John H. Dobbs Jr. as he walked a beat in Atlanta. When I think about a police officer today walking a beat in any city that is crime-ridden, that is full of gangs, that is full of heartache and disaster and violence, I think about in the 1950s, he walked a beat in Atlanta. Today, I wouldn't want anybody that I knew and loved to walk a beat in any of the big cities because crime is out of control. The gangs are out of control. It is very, very scary. And for that young lady to be in North Carolina, think about that, guys. North Carolina. I can't believe I found this picture. This is Bullet Bob Turley and the bodyguard. Y'all love John. He is doing his thing on a boat and living life to the fullest. But I forgot I had a picture of Bob Turley's house. Bullet Bob has gone to be with Jesus, but so many people knew that Cy Young award-winning pitcher. What a great guy he was. And we look back, how many people have left this earth that we love? There's one that should never have left this earth. And it's because of drinking and driving. Drinking and driving. You can't protect yourself from other people's craziness. And that's what happens. But we have to believe it is God's timing. I don't understand it. I will never understand it. I will never understand why that little child had to leave here. There are a lot of things in life that I don't understand, but God knows best, and I'm not sure why. Now we were in New York. I didn't get to go to Ground Zero. I wish that I had. We had a very short trip up there, and Angela and, it was crazy, Angela and Ansley got to go to the Today Show, and Ann invited them in, and they got to meet people, and they got to have a tour of the studio. It was awesome. But I stayed in the hotel, and I stayed in the New Yorker, which is the hotel that my mother used to stay in when she traveled, when she was working. And I thought it was so weird to be where Mama had been 40 years before that, you know. And then to think about, we were in that city that had had such a disaster but was coming back. People were being kinder, people were being nicer, and now maybe we forgot what we went through, and maybe we should remember, and we should all learn to protect each other. And just a day of looking back. We're looking back to days that were safer, they were fun, lots of things going on. Sweet Betty Jordan was beating cancer. Angela came back that day. She had just had a battle with cancer, and they had operated on her twice and got all the cancer, and then things just went crazy after that. So we look back, and we have to think about how blessed we are to still be here, how blessed we are to be celebrating birthdays. And I have a very special birthday, and we're going to share with y'all in a minute. When I think about Blackberry Ridge Eatery, was one of my favorite places to eat. It didn't survive the crash of 2008. It didn't survive the economic downturn. It didn't survive all the construction workers not having jobs, they were all laid off. Today, at least construction workers have jobs, lots going on. And how precious is that? How precious. That was at the community meal down in McCaysville, Copper Hill. When we did it, we all brought in big old pots of food, and we served the public, and we had a great time. And just such sweet memories. That's what we have to look at as we approach the day of 9/11. We have to think about. This is when we first got new equipment. We had an old board that was pretty dated, pretty ancient, I would use that word. And then we got new stuff, and the boys had to learn how to do it, and they did. And you see that green screen? We don't use that now. I don't know why we don't. Maybe we need to learn to do that. It used to be used, I think, for the weather, and that was the only time it was used. But we actually have the ability. We have 4 sets in here where we can do 4 different things. We could do them all at one time. We could do them at different times, but we have the ability to do pretty much whatever we want to. The only thing I can't figure out, we might have to put the clog-in people right in the middle of the floor because we've got some carpets here and there. Or we'd have to roll the carpets up, because I'd love to have some live clogging in the studio. Now there's that special birthday. Happy 74th to Hollis Stamey and his precious wife. If you don't watch them and their little travels and their little visits and their little vacations, they go to some of the coolest places. And if you'll just get on, it's so much fun to watch them. I love it. Once Diane retired, that was it. They hit the road. They were like on the road. They were like road packing for the DOT. And they love it. And happy birthday, because Hollis had some health issues and doing great. So happy birthday. There's something about being 74. The next number is a big one. So I warn you. And tomorrow, that little fella celebrates his birthday, born on 9/11. Happy birthday to Riker John. Happy birthday to a precious little boy. A precious little boy. And on 9/11 of all days, and there's Jen, happy 80th in heaven. Happy 80th. And of course we had to have apples in there, because it is apple season. And don't forget, there are all kinds of apple houses with you pick it and you eat it, and don't forget to get fried apple pies. Please get fried apple pies and take them home and put you some, get home and warm them up a little bit and put you a little dollop of vanilla ice cream. Oh my gosh, nothing any better. Okay, it's my opinion that today in America, and remember this is my opinion, today in America, maybe it is time that we protected ourselves. I've watched that playback over and over of the girl on the bus. There were several people sitting around her. Nobody stepped up to help her. Nobody stepped up and got involved. Nobody got out a gun and shot the guy. Maybe it's time that we go to our local police department, we go to our local sheriff's department, and we say, do you have a gun training class? I know that there's one down in Jasper, an Appalachian Gun, and you can sign up for that. we probably need to be protecting ourselves, because that young lady could still be here today had somebody protected her. People were scared, I'm sure. They were nervous, I'm sure. If there had been just another guy on the bus, but we understand God's timing. I don't know why. I don't know how she survived a war-torn country and ended up in the United States and lost her life. But we need to pray for that family. So today, please pray for that family. And please think about protecting yourself. If you don't already carry a gun, maybe you ought to think about it. So where were you when the world stopped turning? Where were you that day? We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to share, you've met my friend before, Paul Nelson, a New York City detective who was at Ground Zero day in and day out for days and days and days as they sifted through the dust and the crazy debris that was there, including horrible things that were left as people jumped from the sky. It was a horrible time in America, but it was a time that we got back in church, we got back to prayer, we started flying our flags again, and I challenge each of you today, put up an American flag, say a prayer for those who are still struggling, because there's so many people in the New York area, there's so many people who were in New York then and moved somewhere else. They are struggling, and many of them today will die of cancer. He says all the time they get notices that so-and-so that I worked with passed from cancer, so-and-so I worked with passed from cancer, and they have determined that it's long-term effects from 9/11. So we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back shortly.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time, and delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Make moves, set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up, stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things. This is pre-tirement.
Smoky Mountain memories about my home in Tennessee. Memories keep calling me home.
Whether you're swimming in the sea, or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
morning, everybody. It is a wonderful, hot Georgia day. There's something about Georgia and the heat and the sun that just makes you want to smile. It was hot and muggy, and we walked in the studio, and it's kind of like an ice box. My guests are from, actually from New York by way of Cherokee County, Georgia. Cool. Now, how long have y'all been in Cherokee County?
We moved here in July of 2017, so it'll be 2 years next month.
2 years. So y'all, they're just getting to know the area.
We are.
And they have just found out that when you serve a hot dog in the South, oh, turn your mics on. Go on the side and turn your mics on. Sorry. When you serve a hot dog in the South, Gina, what are one of the words that people say? Coleslaw.
Coleslaw.
Did you know about slaw when you started serving up hot dogs in the South?
No, we did not. We
My goodness gracious.
coming from New York, a traditional New York dog is one of two things. It's mustard and sauerkraut, or sweet red onions.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what we have plenty of.
Yes. Yes.
But we have no slaw. We are hopefully going to work on that and make that happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's so funny because yesterday I was telling y'all we went to a place that I'd never been before, and they served a hot dog, and I always order mine with sweet relish.
Yes.
And mustard and ketchup.
We do have relish, yes.
Well, when it
Pardon me.
came, we couldn't find the relish. And it's because they were so smart. They put the relish under the hot dog.
That's brilliant.
And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Now, y'all started serving up hot dogs because Paul, being a retired NYPD detective, did you have some time on your hands?
I did. Actually, while I was a detective in one of the commands that I was in Queens, we had a hot dog vendor that would set up every single day outside of the precinct on the opposite corner. So in the summertime with the windows open, even with the AC on, you would still get that waffling
Smell.
effect of the cooking of the dogs.
Yeah.
And when there was no time available for, a sit-down dinner, we would just run out, hit the hot dog guy. And so over the years, 20 years or so of doing that, you get to know the owners and you get to know everybody. And I asked him one day, I said, is this really worth your time and effort out here? And when he told me what he makes selling hot dogs, I was just completely mortified. It blew me away.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, did I make the wrong career choice?
Yeah.
But,
I'm an NYPD.
yeah, and this guy, I should be cutting his lawn is really what it came down to.
Yeah.
So I thought after retirement that, it might be something I'd consider, but in the right place. And so we ventured into it. After I retired, Gina and I set up a hot dog truck on a lake on Long Island.
Up north,
And it was very successful.
And you loved
Beautiful.
what you did. You
Yeah.
loved what you did.
Loved
Because you're
it.
engaging with the
I
public,
loved
and
it.
the
Yeah.
majority of people in the public are good people.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately, those who aren't are the ones that get the limelight, and they seem to represent everybody. It's not a clear representation.
You're getting
Right.
a great crowd. Food makes people happy.
Happy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So they're coming
Give
to
me
you.
2 hot dogs with mustard ketchup
Right.
and sweet relish.
Or chili
I'm
and
your
cheese.
friend
And they're
forever.
happy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you just start a rapport, and you get your regular customers, and you know what they want, and you have it ready when you see them walking up to your, to your car.
We were given gifts. We were given a wedding album handmade by one of our customers. Sweet,
Wow.
sweet,
Sweet lady.
elderly woman, single, went back to work after her husband passed away. Would come up and very ritualistically ask for the same. I knew what she was going to order, so I would always have it prepared.
Yeah.
And we engage in conversation. You get to know your customers, and it's a real feel. When you know somebody's coming up and you know what they normally have and you have it prepped, it makes them feel like, oh,
They're important.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's that rapport
Yeah.
that actually is what's enjoyable mostly about it. It's not so much the money as much as you're engaging with people in a
Yeah.
better way than I was used
And
to.
it might be the only conversation she had that day.
Right.
Correct.
It might be the
It was
only
meaningful.
conversation she
That's
had
right.
that day. Exactly.
Right.
Now, did you know that you're sitting next to somebody who's pretty important? Did you know that she just accomplished something? I think was pretty
I'd like to
cool.
think that I had some part in it.
Just a little. Can we talk a little bit about this little award you
We
won, Miss Gina? Did you
can.
know about this?
I only found out about it when they did the anonymous survey that they have to send to all the staff members in my school. And I saw my name on the list.
Wow.
So you-
somebody nominated you.
I guess a couple of people may have nominated me.
Yeah.
And my name fell on the list with, it's 2 categories. It's faculty, which are teachers, and staff, which are the non-teaching staff members. So there's 3 people to choose from each category. and it's an anonymous voting, and everybody submits their forms online.
Yeah.
And I got the award.
And you know how I knew you had the award? Because I follow every move Riker makes. And Riker was at the school
Riker
for her
was there.
presentation.
It was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
My husband, my sister Yvonne, and sweet little Riker came out from behind the curtain on stage when they announced my name.
Yeah.
And he was an angel. He was a perfect little angel.
He was.
Well, it was so precious, and I happened to know one of the people there at your school, and I said it was so funny. I looked, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Yes.
Now, to be down here 2 years and to already make such an impression on people, that speaks volumes for you.
I hope so. I do hope so. I love being in the school. I was in the schools up north. I was in a high school up north for 5 years, and then I worked in central offices for 4 years. I knew I wanted to be in the schools down here, and I was very blessed and fortunate when timing just worked out perfectly. I had done the online application, sent my resumes and cover letters, and a woman in the office was retiring just as we were sliding into Georgia.
Wow.
And they actually called me in New York to fly down for an interview. And I got the job right then and there.
Did you know that God's timing is always perfect?
It was.
There
it
is
was
no question about it. It is always, and when it happens, you're like, seriously?
I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I truly anticipated moving here as a new Georgian and looking for a job. Never anticipating getting one in the school so quickly.
Wow. Awesome.
And 2 years later, I guess they like my shy personality.
Well, it's funny because one of the things you do is you talk to the kids over the PA system.
I love the kids. I love the kids.
And they love that, oh, you're the lady on the PA. You know?
They like for me to do the PA system announcements because it's not a voice they're used to hearing. It's not an accent they're used to hearing. So they actually listen. They do listen. And I was making an announcement one day at dismissal, and a sweet little 6th grade girl came in, and I'm talking on the PA system, and she comes up to the front desk and she says, oh my gosh, that's you? And I said, yes. She goes, you're like Siri.
Love it.
It was just one of those priceless moments. She was adorable. She was adorable. But I love being in the school.
Now, what age kids are you around today?
I'm in a middle school, and we have 6th grade through 8th grade. And
That's a tough time for kids.
It is. They're out of elementary school. They're trying to find themselves, identify who they are. They're not quite grown-up high schoolers yet, but they're not baby elementary schoolers anymore.
Right.
So it is confusing. Their bodies are going through a lot of changes. So emotionally, mentally, physically, it's a lot going on. It's a tough age. It's a tough age.
And do you realize that every child in your class has no idea where your husband was on 9/11 because they weren't around on 9/11?
No, they were not. They were not. We've also been very fortunate where the careers class has invited him to speak in the school to the children about 9/11, about being a police officer in New York City. All the events that have happened in his career, including Ground Zero, 9/11, and that kind of stuff. And they are intrigued. They are intrigued. They know of it as a part of their history, but they don't know. It's like as if you or I would talk to a World War II hero. It's something so abstract to them until they're one-on-one with it. And they had a lot of questions. Their little hands were going up in the air asking him questions. And
very engaging. It truly was enjoyable on for me, because they're authentic, genuine minds that are asking these questions. They're not tainted by opinions.
They're sweet.
They're sweet and genuine. And at the end of my second visit there, it was a year apart, I believe, some of the kids, some of the boys in the back that had previously, the year before, been in my, I call it a lecture, but it's very engaging and one-on-one with them. They started rambling around in the back and moving and passing things around, and I just let their boys being boys. And at the end of the class, they all came up almost individually and shook my hand and thanked me. I would give them my uniform, my shield, my
hat, his old hat.
Articles that I would wear, uniform pieces, handcuffs, the vest, things like that, and just let them feel it so that they're not intimidated by it when they see it on somebody. And that we're all, and I would explain, we're all human. We're all just, I'm just an older person that sat in a chair much like yours. And when you break it down like that, they seem to really kind of get it. You're not talking at them or down to them, but you're talking with them.
And so when they see a bumper sticker now that says "Back the Blue," they get it.
Yes.
They get it.
Most of them do, yes.
Yeah.
Most of them do.
They get it.
Because, again, they're children that are of pure minds. They haven't been tainted or jaded by the world yet, and they don't understand what it is everybody's talking about and angry. But at the end of this one particular class, that group of kids walked out, gave me a handshake, and thanked me for my service and my time, and handed me an envelope. And I thought it was going to be a thank you note for coming to the class. So I walked up to the office where Gina was with the teacher, and ultimately, in conversation with the other faculty there, I opened it up, and they had taken a collection for me
Wow.
of $6.
$6.
And they wanted
All those babies.
And
it gives me
wrote,
goosebumps. Look, I got
they
goosebumps.
wrote, thank you, Detective Nelson, for all of your service and sacrifice.
6th grade babies.
And they gathered up anything they could in their pockets, and I said to the teacher, I cannot take this.
No.
Please either return it or buy them something.
Buy them a treat.
Oh my
Buy them
gosh.
something special.
And that was the connection we made. And I actually look forward to going back, every year now. Hopefully they'll have me back. But it's such a connection because, again, they're genuine little beings. They're not jaded. They don't have opinions of anything. And that is the best time. I can understand why teachers become engaged with their students and become almost like a third parent in some degree, because you do look out and connect with them, and you're looking out for them. You do want, whether they're yours or not, you want them to go down the right path. You want them to hear the right things and be able to, filter out the nonsense. But genuine little kids. And occasionally we'll be out of the restaurant, we'll see the family, and they'll wave over or they'll say hello to her. It's cute. It's cute. But it's and I say this all the time, many of the interactions police have are always during stressful situations or someone's worst day. And you hope to leave them with a good opinion, but you don't always. Right. Because as much as you want to, you have to enforce the law. And sometimes people just don't agree with what it is you have to do, your objective. But in these cases... And you are human as a detective, as a police officer, as a first responder. You are human. Humans make errors. No doubt. So every once in a while there is an error made that in that split second it seemed like the right thing to do. It doesn't always have to be a political mindset that you were in or a racially motivated incident. In 20 years I've helped people of all walks, of all colors, of all races, of all languages. I've delivered babies. I've been stabbed. I've been in shootings. I've been assaulted. I've been, I've had to use physical force to lock people up. I've had to take knives off people. Everything that in a police department or in an active area you're going to have to do. You're going to have to engage the public at some point or another. And it's not because I decided, well, that guy walking down the street there looks like he needs an attitude adjustment. It's because 911 called, and that on the other end of that 911 call is a civilian reporting something and or calling you for assistance. So you're not self-initiating these incidents as the press seems to imply. It is normally the response for help from a civilian that you're engaging in this process. And it's just, I think the majority of society understands it. I think politically it's just, right now we're in a political time when people are assigning blame, and the easiest one to do is the one that's first in line, and that's the police. That's right. You don't see them turning, and I say this not to knock the fire department. The fire department, by and large, stays in their firehouse when there are no fires. Right. The police don't stay inside their precincts when there's no crime going on or they're not reporting crime to us. They're always out there. They're always out there. And when you're always out there, you're always going to be in people's view. And you are basically a target in more ways than one. Absolutely. You're a target for somebody who's going to say you did something when you didn't, or you're a target to get your life taken because somebody's mad or violent or ill. I saw this morning that a female police officer with 3 children was killed over a domestic dispute that she was working on. There are so many. You left home every morning going to work, and your thoughts of him coming home were what? Well, I wasn't active in that part of his career. We're married now 12 years, towards the end though. Definitely towards the end. And there's just always a question mark. There's always a question mark. Certain people are cut out for this job.
I feel my husband was meant to do this job. He truly was. He has diplomacy. He can neutralize situations. He's my...
You're going to have to hold me back if Nancy Pelosi says one more word about my president. You're gonna
he's my voice of reason.
You're going to have to be my diplomat.
Employ some diplomacy here.
He's my voice of reason and logic, and can, talk to us about anybody down off the ledge, so to speak. He was meant for this job. It doesn't mean it was easy. It doesn't mean it didn't take its toll on him, his family, on anyone. I tell people my husband served 20 years in New York City. He served a harder 20 years than most criminals do in jail.
Yes, yep.
Because of what he did and what he had to face and the things he physically had to do, and just the combativeness of the area. Also, when the drug wave was on the rise, crack unfortunately was increasing at volumes that we just couldn't keep track of.
And now heroin has eaten crack alive.
Right.
Yes.
So
it's like heroin is like...
I do tell people that he served a hard 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Harder than most criminals.
I think anybody that was on in the 80s, became a police officer in the 80s, saw the pendulum of society that we tend not to talk about. They said war on drugs and whatever you want to call it. It was a bad time for society. People were eating each other alive just by the nature of doing the drugs they were doing. They were drugs that made people violent, turn against their family, wives, children. Some of the things that people did to each other was just, you look back now and you go, my God, when you really absorb it, I mean, because to a certain degree, your defense mechanisms kick in, and you look at I retired from the homicide squad, so I would go out to a homicide, and everybody else is looking at a dead body on the street, and I'm looking at it as a puzzle, and I'm putting it together, and I'm looking at it as an objective. All right, this is what I've obtained so far. This is leading me in this direction. I look at the body for not in a compassionate way in that time, but in a way that is allowing me to break down the scene, break down what happened before I got there, and it does tell a story. It is a little difficult to explain, but you're looking at it from a work perspective and not so much as a human.
I have to solve this crime.
Right.
Yes.
And you have to look at how did it happen,
right.
Why did it happen?
And I think what happens is the defense mechanisms break down over time. And so those emotions that everybody else was feeling in that moment, you start to feel over time. You start to look back and go, God, I could not imagine that being a family member. At the time, I was just looking at blood drips, trails. I was looking for evidence, patterns, clothing, whether the pockets were pulled out, whether there's evidence of a robbery, a confrontation, whether it was a blitz attack, a planned attack, whether they were known to each other. The scene does speak, but you have to be in the mindset of an investigator to interpret it, because the emotions do get in the way. And so I think for many investigators, as they get older in life, they start to then lose those defense mechanisms because you don't have to employ them any longer when you retire. And you do start to deal with a little bit more of that wearing of the emotions coming back. So when we do get together with our brotherhood, if you want to call it that, which are people that have seen the same thing, you see it in veterans, doctors, and so on, all professions have it. And they do start to reminisce a little bit. Their stories change from the bravado to the, God, could you imagine? And so whenever I was engaged, I think most of my coworkers would say, we develop a sick sense of humor because it helps us get through things. But I always kept the compassionate side intact because you don't know who's who standing around, and I would never want to insult a family member or embarrass a family member. The one thing I do take pride in out of everything I've ever done was delivering a child who ultimately was named after me. And secondly, as I described to my wife, I was just a regular guy from New York, grew up in a suburb, difficulty in school, difficulty with men.
Okay, a little bit of our interview with Gina and Paul, and I can only imagine what it was like. He said the smell, the dust, the debris, tons and tons and tons and tons, and he worked in it day after day after day. And the last time I saw them when they were here, that week he had gotten notice that either one or two friends had passed away from the results of 9/11. We're going to go now to some of the footage and some of the photos that Paul shared with us. And I think about, there are so many people alive today who have graduated high school who weren't even in this world on this day. But this, to me, is the day that brought America back together. We should remember this day every day in America. We should continue to join together in prayer. We should continue to join together and raise our own flags at our own homes. We should join together to support this country, the greatest nation in the world. Now, this is what, when you look at all the dust and all the debris, this is what everybody had to sit and sift through, because there were fatalities at such a huge number. They had to recover the victims. So you couldn't just scoop this up with a dozer and put it in a dumpster, because there were people, there were, I hate to say this, parts of people in the debris. With reverence, every single piece of this was treated with reverence. It was treated with reverence because somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's uncle, somebody's dad was in this debris, this huge, huge pile of debris. So every single piece was hand turned, hand sorted, and then put into distinct places, whether it was to be recycled, whether it was to be hauled to a landfill, wherever. But every single moment of this was treated with reverence. Did the people who were working in it think that they were putting themselves at risk? I don't think so. But I think they would have done it anyway, even knowing that they were at risk, because this is what they signed up to do as New York City police officers. This is what they did to, once again, get their city back on track. Think about this. This took years to clean up. And it was one day at a time, and every single day that you walk back into it, you relive it every single day. So they would work so many days, so many hours, so many shifts, and then they would have somebody replace them for a few days to give them a break from it. Because when you think about that, the depression that would set in, the mindset of what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're recovering. They said that so there were so many people who, even pieces of jewelry were found, that then they had to identify, who did this belong to? Whose was this? So if you had a family member who was lost in that, they gathered the mementos, and people had to show up and identify things that were left by their loved ones. Because you think about it, their offices collapsed. And in that office, in your desk drawer, you don't know what you may have had. You may have taken off your watch that morning and put it in your desk drawer. You may have taken off a bracelet that you normally wear and it was bugging your arm that day, and you took it off and you put it in a desk drawer. There are so many things that were personal items that were identified. That had to be the toughest thing ever, because as you find those personal items, it puts a real, there was somebody that owned this. There was somebody who loved this. There was somebody who treasured this. And so to be a police officer in that, I don't know how they did it. I mentally, physically, we know the physical toll it took on them. We also know it has taken a huge toll on them with depression. And it would be so very, very depressing. This is like New York City was truly, it looked like a war zone. It was something that we had never, ever imagined. It was something that I don't believe we were prepared for. And I go back to this day and I get cold chills thinking about my friend Nancy and George, as Nancy was on one side of the city and George was on the other. And she called their son and she said, meet me at the harbor. We're going to get the boat and we're going to rescue your daddy. And that's exactly what they did. She had the thinking and the ability to just jump into action and to go retrieve her husband, who was working in an area where he couldn't get out of. The bridge was closed. This was closed. There was no in and out traffic. It was a disaster area. And she came up with this plan, and she followed through on that plan, and they got George out of that. And it just, it gives me cold chills, it makes me cry, and it's so sad, because those who were lost, there were also those who were saved. There were those who survived. There were just amazing, amazing stories that you will hear forever. For the rest of our life, we will hear these stories, and it is important that we do. And it is important that we share this, because this is America on our most vulnerable day ever. And what happened here also followed through as it happened at the nation's capital, as it happened in the fields of Pennsylvania. This wasn't the only attack on America that day. This was the one that we all remember. This is the one that is absolutely traumatized into our mind forever. But it wasn't just New York City. It was Washington was hit, Pennsylvania was hit, and so many lives were lost. And we've all watched the movie. If you haven't, you need to, of the plane that went down in the field in Pennsylvania, and the heroes who tried to stop that from happening. People were willing to do anything to stop the disaster. Today we have the ability to do that by gathering together, by learning to protect ourselves, by learning to, it's our right to carry a gun. It is our right to protect ourselves. I think that shot that they just showed was about what I saw when my husband had told me to tell him to turn on the TV. And I saw that second plane about to go into the tower, because when he called me, he wasn't even sure what it was. He thought that it was probably a plane had crashed into the tower. I don't think anybody at that stage of the game thought that it was terrorist. And then when the second plane hit, that was it. It came together and everybody knew. And I think about, always when I watch that, I think about what it's like. I have a friend who's going to the doctor tomorrow. She's having a lot of breathing problems, and they said her lungs were had some serious issues. And they asked her, did you smoke? And she said, no, never. Well, the people who were here at Ground Zero and were inhaling that dust and that dirt, nobody was thinking about protecting themselves. They were thinking about what can they do to help? What can they do to bring a calmness back to the city? What can they do to help somebody else? And they didn't think about what they were doing to their lungs. So there's so many people who were affected by that, and we will always be affected by that. We should never, ever forget 9/11. We should never forget, where were you when the world stopped turning? I know exactly where I was. I know exactly how I felt. I cried for days and days and days. And then when Alan Jackson came out with the song, Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning, my kids dubbed it my song. They said, Mom, your song's on again, your song's on again. I listened to it over and over and over, and it said exactly what happened in America. It said we got back together. We held each other's hands. We prayed together. We hung the flags in our yards again. It's time we do that again. It's time that we never, never forget what happened. And what happened was we didn't protect ourselves. We had people, and everybody involved in this were terrorists. These were terrorists. They weren't nice people who got on a plane and had a bad day. This was a well-planned terrorist attack. We can't let it happen again. We have to protect our country. We have to protect our people. And we have to pray that God will help those who are still struggling and still fighting with either cancer or breathing issues, COPD. All different kinds of things have been diagnosed. And sadly, many of these police officers have not been covered with medical help that they need so badly. But there was a fund that ran out, and we need to get together. I watch Tunnel for Towers all the time, Tunnel to Towers, and I think about that. I think that's one of the greatest organizations ever created, because it is helping those who suffered and who struggled, and often who went to war after this, because there were so many people who joined the military and said, we want to stop the violence that came to our nation ever coming back to our nation again. So our military was stronger. We saw differences in people. We saw kids getting out of college who should have gone on and had a degree and a great job, like Noah Harris. First Lieutenant Noah Harris gave his life because of 9/11. And 9/11 will forever be etched in our minds. Where were you the day that the world stopped turning? I know exactly where I was. And today, maybe you should sit down with your children if they weren't alive then. Maybe you should tell your grandchildren the story. And maybe one of them will make a difference in America. Maybe they will grow up to be a social worker to help those who are still battling with depression. Maybe you can make a difference today by just telling the story. What happened on America should never happen again, and we need to protect ourselves, and there's a way to do it. What we saw on the bus in North Carolina, and you know, I really get sad when I think about it wasn't reported as a big news story. People didn't even talk about it until the president brought it up and said, this should never have happened. It should never have happened. You ought to be able to get on a city bus and ride to and from your job and feel safe. Maybe the bus system needs to have armed guards on there. Maybe the bus system needs to have a metal detector. I don't know. But the man had a knife, and he just, innocent victim sitting in front of him, he ended her life. She was 23 years old. Please today say a prayer for her family. Please say a prayer that she now is with Jesus. You think about that. God's perfect plan. Maybe there was something else worse that was going to happen to her. I can't imagine. But there was no excuse for a man who had been before a judge 14 times and released on his own. Not even a bond, a cash, sign the paper and you're out of here. It should never happen in America, and we don't want it to happen again. We're going to leave you with just a few seconds of the song that Alan Jackson wrote, because of copyright, we have to be protected of it, and so we can only use a few seconds. But when you think about it, I want you all to listen to this today. You can go to YouTube and you can choose one and play it. Where were you the day the world stopped turning? Think about it. Share the story with anybody who wasn't here. And remember to go, if you don't have a flag, purchase a flag and fly a flag in front of your house. I'm going to leave you now where rivers, mountains, and good friends meet. But don't forget, go to YouTube, subscribe to us, and check out. You can see the full show with Gina and Paul Nelson because it's all on YouTube. And all you have to do is hit subscribe. Doesn't cost you a penny. And Trace is posting things every day, so there's always something new coming out on YouTube. I'll see you again soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Where were you when the world stopped turning on that September day? Were you in the yard with your wife and children, or working on some stage in L.A.? Did you stand there in shock at the sight of that black smoke rising against that blue sky? Did you shout out in